Black America is in financial crisis. One of the top financial metrics to determine the health of one's personal finances is consumer credit. Black America has the worst credit in the country. There's a ton of historical reasons and obvious reasons why that came to be up until this point. But in modern times, there's one killer of Black America's personal or consumer credit, and that's actually going to be credit repair. I'm going to give you 7 reasons why credit repair is destroying Black America's personal credit and how that's leading to a widening of the wealth gap and also leading to a scenario where Black America is going to be financially desperate going forward. So, of those 7 reasons, each of them are going to be of my own description. I am a financial professional by trade, well over 10 years of experience in mortgage lending, consumer and small business banking, as well as investments, life insurance, etc. That having been said, I've had the personal privilege and opportunity to work with thousands of consumer clients when it comes to their personal credit on some level or another, helping them get access to capital, access banking resources, etc. I've had the same privilege with thousands at this point of small businesses. So I am speaking from a position of strength when I cover this video. Those 7 reasons are going to be 7 of many, but I did my best to make them as relevant to today's time as possible. I'm also going to give you my personal perspective on how you should approach your personal credit. If you happen to be in tough shape with your personal credit, you know someone who's in tough shape with your personal credit, or guidance or advice that can help you if you end up in tough shape with your personal credit. So the number one reason I'm going to put is going to be very timely as of the time of this recording, and that is the dismantling of the CFPB. The CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has largely been broken down or dismantled, or at least put on its last leg in a sense of speaking by the current presidential administration in the efforts of government efficiency. Whether you agree or disagree with it, that agency has been stripped down to its bare bones and is not functioning at its regular capacity. The CFPB is largely broadly known to be a Bureau for Consumer Protection. This is the baseline of where credit repair has even come into existence. As credit has become more prevalent in our financial system over the decades, it had become apparent that a lot of companies were either by accident or by maliciousness abusing consumer credit reports. And this could be inaccuracies, this can be misreported data, etc. With this becoming so rampant at one point in time, it became relevant that the government, put together an agency that, amongst many other functions and behaviors, decided to target, the protection of consumer credit reports. With the CFPB being dismantled, that basically means that the protections and the enforcement of that protection has been brought down to its bare bones. And when it comes to credit repair, it's going to make it that much more difficult for you to be able to protect or defend yourself as a consumer when dealing with credit reporting agencies or creditors and lenders reporting to your credit report. The CFPB has played a very significant role in these forms of consumer protection. So with them being dismantled, that's number one out of the gate at the time of this recording, a problem that's going to make credit repair more difficult for you. The next one I have documented is most credit repair companies are foolish, to be completely honest. They're fake, phony, and false, or at best case scenario, may be effective, but completely unethical. They are going to find ways to get as much money out of you as they realistically can and either drag out the job, not really do the job at all, or they're going to find a way to unethically perform the job, which is in the long run won't assist you in the first place. If you pay attention, it's very hard to even do decent background checks on the companies offering credit repair. And a lot of credit repair is not even offered by companies. A lot of well-marketed credit repair services are just individuals that have gotten their hands on some kind of software or are functioning in the capacity of like a broker to some other company in the background that's performing a credit repair. So most credit repair companies or entities aren't even legitimate. That's reason number 2. Number 3 is going to be bureaus are catching on to the game of credit repair. Unfortunately, this has gone from a consumer protection function to a business model. It's become an industry. And unfortunately, once high volumes of money gets involved, a lot of things become diluted in their value. Credit bureaus are hip to the fact that credit repair is now gone from consumers that have been abused or may have inaccurate information on their credit report, holding them back from access to capital and other financial resources or services, to individuals that have legitimately defaulted on debt obligations, now looking to try to skip the process of settling those debts effectively and ethically, and trying to just finagle and fake their way into the financial system, into the banking system, into access to capital. So with that being the case, credit bureaus, being the machines that they are deeming more and more credit files and consumer files as frivolous, at least the claims of credit repair as frivolous. When you are challenging things on your credit report, it is becoming extremely more difficult for you to legitimately dispute things, because the credit reporting agencies are seeing so many claims coming through, and they're seeing so many variations of these claims coming through, that it is hard for you to legitimately, get in front of them in a way where they will take it seriously. So it's literally watered down credit repair, and credit reporting agencies are flagging a lot of profiles and marking a lot of them as frivolous, which is why credit repair companies are trying to get more creative beyond the basic letters, and they're telling you and selling you all of these different unique strategies they're using, because they know credit reporting agencies are like, another one, another one. At the end of the day, it's really hard to display or come through as authentic when you're filing for, inaccuracies on your credit report or illegitimate information on your credit report, especially through credit reporting companies. So that's number 3. Number 4 is going to be these, and I'm going to combine number 4 and number 5, which breaks it down to 7. But essentially, these credit reporting agencies, the ones that are even actually attempting to do credit repair on your credit report, are doing 2 things that really break down to the same thing. They're either faking your identity, or they're mingling your information in order to create disparities on your credit report, inaccuracies on your credit report. So if they can't effectively challenge the information that the creditor has put on your credit report, or the company has put on your credit report, as in to say maybe the date that it was put on, the amount, these different things about the debt obligation or the charge-off information itself, then they're simply mingling and dismantling your personal information in order to argue that it's even you who this information is being reported on. So they either completely claim that your identity has been stolen in order to sweep your credit, or they will get you to agree to a bunch of power of attorney and other documentation to get them to function and represent you on your behalf. They will contact the credit reporting agencies or find ways to communicate with them and completely mangle your basic demographic information. So think your name, date of birth, social, addresses, on and on, with the credit reporting agencies themselves, in order to make the rest of the information being reported with your correct information look inaccurate. Crazy, but it's the truth. So if they're even doing legitimate credit repair, and they're not just sending out generic letters that are going to take months, if not years, to get acknowledged or get a response or get anything removed, if they're doing it in the 30, 60, 90 days, getting it off in 15 days, if they're effectively doing these things, it's because a lot of times they're completely butchering your information in order to accomplish it, which leaves you in a horrible place with the credit bureaus once you go to function with them to access capital. Because what happens when you go to apply at a bank or a lender for a loan, a credit card, or a mortgage of any sort? They are getting your information on your application and cross-referencing it to the credit reporting agencies. So when your social doesn't match up, your date of birth, variations of your name, your address, etc., when this demographic data is no longer compatible, you are no longer going to be able to get any applications approved, unfortunately. So the next reason is it's getting you flagged for systems like EWS and other systems that are cropping up in the financial sector. These banks are getting smarter, these lenders are getting smarter, the credit reporting agencies are getting smarter, and they're literally investing with each other to minimize fraud, and illegitimate characters, fictitious characters, from abusing the system through avenues like credit repair. So the EWS early warning system is one prime example that many people now may be familiar with, because when you go to apply for a bank account and sometimes credit cards or other, lending tools, but largely for deposit accounts, EWS may be denying you or denying people from getting access to the financial institution. This is literally a intelligence system, a data system that has been created by the big banks themselves collectively. This is a system where they're reporting a bunch of information amongst each other, warning each other that this person came over here to commit fraud or attempted to commit fraud or did get into our system to commit fraud. I'm letting everybody else know and putting that information out very fast in one system that is going to effectively allow other banks to avoid the fraud and box you out. That EWS system is being used on deposit accounts, and its similar systems are being used when it comes to you applying for access to capital in any form or fashion. So using credit repair and the way these companies are unethically mangling your information or lying about identity theft or whatever the case may be is only alerting the CRAs, the EWSs of the world, the check systems of the world, the LexisNexis of the world, that something's going on with your information. Something's going on with your profile. You can only continue to go month after month claiming your identity is being stolen, claiming that the information that is the normal demographic information that you have on file is not accurate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, before these companies start scratching their head and saying, how legitimate is this? Because this doesn't make any sense. It's going to stick out like a red thumb. Credit repair assumes it's reactive to the laws that are in place around the effectiveness of credit repair, or the efficacy of credit repair, meaning to say it is looking at the fact of saying, okay, well, in order for something to be erroneous, inaccurate, false, and be removed from your credit report, there has to be a lack of compatibility in information. So what the credit reporting company or the credit repair companies are doing is essentially creating inaccuracies or creating fictitious information or a lack of compatibility. They're synthesizing it to get the charge off or the collection off your credit report. It's synthetic. It's not real. So with that being the case, again, when you go back into the marketplace and try to get bank accounts, try to get access to capital, all of this is coming back to bite you in your ass, because they basically gonna mingle this information up, synthesize artificial information or inaccuracies, and then leave you to deal with it on the back end. They're not gonna correct it when it's over, because all they agreed to do was get this off your credit report. They never agreed to actually protect your information or to do it in a way that wouldn't harm you on the back end. So they're gonna, all right, job done, appreciate it, we'll holler at you. You're sitting there completely unable to function in the financial system the same way as if you didn't get those inaccuracies or that legitimate debt removed off your credit report. It leaves you in the same spot. So that's the next one. The next issue is there's no good credit being built many times due to the inactivity that they often encourage you to have on your credit report. The majority of credit reporting or credit repair companies rather encourage you not to participate with your credit while they're doing what they're doing. A lot of times, because if your identity has truly been stolen, or if there's true inaccuracy on your credit report, in order for that to look legitimate, you have to not be participating. You can't be still going out applying for things if your identity's been stolen, right? In order for all of that to line up, you have to function like a victim. Victims don't go out and offensively or proactively go pursue banking relationships and credit. So in order for all of that to line up, they need you to sit on the sideline while they do what they're doing. So while all of these inaccuracies are being removed off your credit report, you're sitting there with no positive credit history, unless there's already existing positive credit history, of course. But you're sitting there typically with nothing else fresh being built or developed on your credit report, because they're telling you pretty much not to function beyond the scope of work that they're trying to perform. So that leaves you in a situation where they're stripping a bunch of stuff off your credit report and leaving you with bare bone basics on your credit profile, along with the mingled information. So they're leaving you in disrepair with the financial institutions, the credit reporting agencies, the lenders that you need to do business with. And they're turning around and removing large chunks of the credit history that you have and telling you to keep your hands behind you or to sit on your hands while they do so you can't build positive credit in the process of potentially waiting weeks and weeks or months and months, and in some cases, years for them to repair your credit. Big problem. The next is going to be your relationships with the banks, lenders, and creditors that you ruined are still there. The credit reporting agencies may have removed this information, and the creditors may have been forced or coerced into removing this information. But unfortunately, you still owe those debts legitimately with those entities. So when you realign your information with the credit reporting agencies and go back out into the marketplace, with these financial institutions, by the way, collaborating more than ever with your information, you still owe on that bank account. You still owe on that credit card, that loan, that mortgage, that auto loan, whatever the case may be, that Cox bill, that phone bill, it's still there. No, it's not on your credit report possibly, but systems like LexisNexis still have it. Systems like EWS still have you in a system as a warning, as suspicious, or a potential outright fraud threat. You're still in these various systems, even though the credit reporting agencies may not have this data anymore, or it may not be reporting on your credit report. You're still in various systems that are being pinged when you apply for things, when you try to function in the financial system. The last major reason is going to be legitimate individuals who have legitimate inaccuracies and legitimate issues on their credit report, or legitimately being abused by corporations and companies, are being drowned out. Because so many of you that have legitimate debts, legitimate collections, legitimate charge-offs, legitimate charged-off bank accounts, etc., so many of you are drowning out the system, and other individuals who have legitimate inaccuracies on their credit report are trying to function. They're using similar methods. They really do have fraud on their credit report. Their identities were legitimately stolen. The company is misreporting or has inaccuracies on the information it's reporting on their credit report. And individuals out there in bulk, possibly yourself, are abusing that and drowning out these individuals in the eyes of the credit reporting agencies and other entities that are involved in this process. And they can't effectively protect their information. They can't effectively protect and repair their credit because so many of you are out here abusing credit repair artificially because you know the debt is legitimate. So we know that credit is essential for access to capital, financial resources, the banking system, and other goods and services, even in some cases, stuff like insurance and even employment. It's essential. So I understand the desperation around credit repair. I've used credit repair in the past. I had legitimate inaccuracies. I had legitimate issues. I had legitimate debts as well. I also paid my debts off. I settled them and worked with the entities that I had defaulted with at that stage in my life. And from that point on, if the information had incongruencies or inaccuracies, or it wasn't being updated, that's when I was working with credit repair companies. But that's also where I firsthand learned that some of the most popular and well-marketed credit repair companies and programs out there are full of shit. So that having been said, I'm speaking from firsthand knowledge as a financial professional working with a ton of individuals and small business owners, but also somebody who's been through it in the past. So I understand the need for credit repair. I understand the value of good credit. I understand it as good as anybody in the United States. That having been said, that desperation is being abused in the marketplace. These companies know how important credit is, and they know that you don't know how to effectively manage credit repair on your own. And they also know that many of you are willing to be completely unethical and try to get legitimate debts removed without working with those companies that you defaulted with or those institutions that you ran off on. So they're abusing the fact that you're boxed in, need access to quality credit and the resources quality credit can get you. And they know that in that desperate situation, many of you will forego your principles and ethics, if you've ever had them, and will pay to have those inaccuracies or that legitimate collection, legitimate charge off, legitimate default removed by any means necessary. So, that having been said, how do we close this out effectively? What are some things you can do if you are currently in a situation where your credit is bad and you're considering or possibly already in credit repair, or if you run into a scenario where credit repair is necessary or something that you need in the future? The first thing you need to do is make sure that you have a quality income, because you're going to need money. And that's whether you're going to go the credit repair route or you're going to try to settle and work with these defaults legitimately with the creditors. Make sure your income is stable and is of good variation of spread from your debt obligations or your expenses. Have cash flow. You're going to need it. The next thing is find legitimate methods for credit repair. Send your own letters out, communicate with the creditors yourself, communicate with the credit reporting agencies yourself. Why? Because one, that's what a legitimate person does. Number two, you can make sure that your information isn't mixed and mangled and butchered, and that there's not fraud or fake methods and unethical methods being used to repair your credit. You are going to use your legitimate name, date of birth, and demographic info to approach these creditors, approach the credit reporting agencies. The next thing you can do is your state's attorneys general. If you are legitimately experiencing inaccuracies or abuse by a company on your credit report, whatever the case may be, you had a legitimate falling out with a company and they're reporting data that isn't legitimate or isn't fairly being reported, your state's attorneys general can help you on your behalf, especially with the CFPB being in the position that it is in. The state's attorneys general is something every state has. They are there on a state level to function like the CFPB does on the federal level. They're there to protect you as a consumer from corporate company abuses, amongst other things. They're there to represent you. Mind you, they don't play games. So you cannot use them, in a legitimate default or charge off a collection situation and try to leverage them to wipe away some legitimate debt that you have. They are not to be played with, but they are legitimately there if you have real inaccuracies or disputes with companies or something on your credit report. The next thing you want to keep in mind while you're working through repairing your credit, if you're in that situation or need to do so in the future, is it's going to take time to do it legitimately. So build good credit in the process. The next best thing you can do from getting negative items removed from your credit report is to drown it out with good financial information, good credit information and behavior. Go set up a bunch of secure loans, secure credit cards. If you still have access to unsecured debt, exercise that effectively. Use your excess capital to build good data with good financial institutions that will report that data and your credit behavior on your credit report. Secure loans, secure credit cards, use them in abundance while you're repairing your credit with the negative items. So the months, the potential years that it's going to take for you to deal with those negative items, you're building out good credit history. Payment history is a percentage. You can drown out a lot of negative payment history with more good payment history. You can drown out a lot of negative account data with good account data. It's a lot of percentages on your credit report. Use that in your favor. The next major important metric on your credit report is age. A lot of times it's the third most important. You want to build good credit as soon as you possibly can. A lot of the negative items that you may be disputing, if they do come off, are going to take age with them. So you want to make sure that you're building good data along the way. Those are a few major but very straightforward, simple tips for you to manage if you're dealing with credit issues currently or run into them in the future. Comment down below and let me know what your experience with credit repair companies have been. Let me know what your experience with credit issues have been in the past, how you've handled them. Have you used credit repair? Have you dealt with it on your own? Did you just let it take its course and try to build on top of it? How did you handle it? Where's your credit sitting right now at the time of this recording when you're listening to this? If you're in great shape with your credit, comment down below and let people know where you are and maybe some of the things you did to be where you are. Because trust me, many people out there can use that information. If you have it, share it. This is JP from Blueprint for Prosperity Network, your relationship banker, your financial specialist that is helping you maximize relationship banking and help you maximize your borrowing capacity so you can customize your blueprint for prosperity. To all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. I want you to like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel so the channel can continue to support you. Other than that, I want each and every one of you to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.